In 1859, the United States and the British Empire mobilized warships, cannons, and thousands of soldiers, and came within one order of open war. Over a pig, one pig, who was eating potatoes. The pig did not make it. Everyone else did. Hold that thought. This is Oops History. True stories that sound fake. Today, the pig war. Let's set the scene. San Juan Island, a lovely green rock sitting in the water between British Vancouver Island and the American Washington Territory. Both countries agreed a border existed here. The problem was the paperwork. In 1846, the Oregon Treaty drew the line through the middle of the channel. Small problem. There are two channels, and the treaty did not say which one. So both empires looked at the island sitting between the channels and decided it was obviously theirs. Britain installed a Hudson's Bay Company sheep farm, run by a man named Charles Griffin. American settlers moved in around it and started planting. Everyone politely ignored each other. For a while. June 15, 1859. American farmer Lyman Cutler wakes up to find a large, black pig in his potato patch, eating his potatoes. Not for the first time. Cutler did what angry farmers did in 1859. He shot the pig. The pig belonged to Charles Griffin, of the British sheep farm. Cutler, feeling this was all very reasonable, offered $10 for the dead pig. Griffin demanded $100, several thousand in today's money, for one pig. Negotiations collapsed immediately. According to legend, and historians side-eye this part, Cutler protested that the pig was eating his potatoes, and Griffin replied it was up to Cutler to keep his potatoes out of his pig. British authorities threatened to arrest Cutler. The American settlers asked their army for protection. This was the moment for calm, senior adults to step in. Instead, Captain George Pickett landed on the island with 66 American soldiers. Yes, that George Pickett, the man later famous for Pickett's Charge, history's least successful uphill jog. British Governor James Douglas responded the way one apparently does in a livestock dispute. He sent warships, and then nobody wanted to be the one who blinked. By late summer, the Americans had 461 men, and 14 cannons dug in on the shoreline. The British answered with 5 warships carrying around 70 guns and over 2,100 men, floating just offshore, all of it pointed at all of it, all because of one pig with a potato habit. For weeks, the two sides sat locked in a standoff, and according to accounts, soldiers traded insults across the lines, each trying to goad the other into firing the first shot. Nobody did. Then, British Rear Admiral Robert Baines arrived, carrying orders from Governor Douglas, land the Marines and take the island. And Baines, a man history should buy a drink, refused. He said he would not involve two great nations in a war over a squabble about a pig. That is the most reasonable sentence ever produced by a man commanding 70 cannons. When the news reached London and Washington, both governments were horrified, mostly at their own people. Word came back down the chain. Everyone calmed down immediately. The compromise, joint military occupation. One American camp on the south end of the island, one English camp on the north. Both armies stayed for 12 years. And here's the twist. The occupation was delightful. The garrisons visited each other's camps, held athletic contests, and celebrated holidays together. Less a standoff, more a very long, heavily armed picnic. In 1872, the border question finally went to a neutral referee, Kaiser Wilhelm I of Germany. He ruled that the islands belonged to the United States. Britain shrugged, packed up English camp, and sailed home. 13 years, start to finish, from gunshot to verdict. Total human casualties of the pig war, 0. The only casualty of the entire conflict was the pig. Time for the damage report. Pigs killed, 1. Humans killed, 0. Warships deployed, 5. Guns aimed at a potato farm, over 80. Compensation demanded, $100. Compensation paid, still 0. Years of armed occupation over one pig, 12. So the next time a disagreement starts escalating, ask yourself the Baines question. Is this a war or is this a squabble about a pig? Subscribe. There is unfortunately plenty more where this came from.